at Fort Townsend, Washington. After 2 months, he was released and returned to Deadwood only after leading citizens testified that he was a merchant and an honorable person to whom full faith and credit should be given. Among the citizens that stepped forward on his behalf included Solstar and George Ayers, past South Dakota Grand Master. The Daily Pioneer Times newspaper reported that Fei Li Wang was happy to be back and relayed that he was not afraid of being deported as he had too many good friends in Deadwood. Freemason, Solstar, Seth Bullock, George Ayers, and Chinese Mason Fei Li Wang were also members of another benevolent local group, the Society of Black Hills Pioneers, for which I and other family members belong to. The society was first to open their arms to my father, Kamlong Wang, during his genealogy search, which started in 1955. The beginning of that is remembered by a treasured photo taken by my father. This is the surprise one. Of my mother, my 9-year-old brother at the time, and a 14-year-old Mount Rushmore at the time. I enlarged this so the top row can see my mother. After my father passed away in 2000, his genealogy passion has become mine. Encouragement and support come from my Aunt Anna Wu, my mother Beatrice, my son Rob, and his girlfriend here today, Susie. And gratefully, many more in the Black Hills. This week, I'm back to the Black Hills for the 9th time in the past 16 years. It's not just my ancestral heritage that beckons me back here. It's the local people and how they are and what they do. It's the heartfelt warmth and support and willingness to help to contribute towards a better community. The city of Deadwood is a national landmark. You can Google map Chinatown, Deadwood, South Dakota, and actually get a location for Chinatown. But in reality, since 2005, there's no tangible evidence left. So for now, local Chinese history is preserved by passionate individuals. I can almost spot out people that I'm talking about, passionate individuals, and dedicated people such as those of the City of Deadwood, the Historic Preservation Commission, Deadwood History, Inc., the Society of Black Hills Pioneers, and by celebrations such as today by the Masons. And lastly, an ancestral footnote. One of Fei Li Wang's son, Song Kwang Wang, was born in Deadwood in 1889. My paternal grandfather was a college educated in America as an architect, was a captain in the Marine Corps during World War II, before passing away in California in 1959. I couldn't enlarge these, but what was found as in remaining possessions was Mason cufflinks. Was my grandfather just a fashionable guy? Or perhaps the vintage cufflinks would lead me to another connection between the Masons and the Wang family. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty good. The next person I want to introduce, I am so thrilled to introduce for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I have to confess to is thinking about what it would have been like to work on this project. And I have to be honest with you. One of the things I do in my work is material forensics. The only time I get involved is when something goes wrong. It's always a problem that they want us to try to get to the bottom of. And I know that on any construction projects, things don't always go 100% perfect. So today is the day that I'm hoping we might be able to get maybe one story about something during the construction of this monument that didn't go right, that 75 years later, no one's going to care. And that person that I'm introducing now is Nick Clifford. He is the last living carver that worked on this project. I hope he doesn't mind that I say that he's 95 years old, and in my book, after 90, you can do and say anything you want. That's the way it's going to be at our house anyway, if I get there. Anyway, he's going to be escorted by Brother Jim Jennings and worshipful brother Eric Jennings, who is Jim's son. They are the grandson and great-grandson of the United States Senator Peter Norbeck, who was senator in South Dakota until his death in 1936. So, Don, if you would come up, love to hear a few words. Take this off if that's more convenient for you. By the way, this is his wife Carolyn, who he wanted to come up on stage with him. Did that guy like run up here like he's ready to work? The job is done. Don, here you go.
Oh, thank you very much. Carolyn and I are very honored to be here. And I could spend the rest of the day talking to you about the carving of Mount Rushmore. But I won't do that. I won't say very much. We have listened to several very good speakers. I'm not a very good speaker. And that's why I have, like I say, when you get 95 years old, sometimes you forget a little something. So Carolyn is here, and she takes very good care of me. If I make a mistake, she generally corrects it. So if I make any mistakes, why, she might be talking too. Anyway, I won't take much of your time. I started working here when I was 17, and I worked 3 years, 1938 through 1940. I had a lot of different jobs working on the mountain, but I ended up being a driller. I wasn't a finished carver, but I drilled lots of holes up on the mountain with a jackhammer. And so I won't go into too much of talking about Mount Rushmore. The only thing is, back in 1940, why, we all knew, and Mr. Morgan knew, that there would be no more funding for Mount Rushmore because it was funded by the government. and all of the money went towards the war effort. So in the meantime, Mr. Borgelman passed away, and so that actually was no surprise because he was in poor health back then. But anyway, his son Lincoln got to be a good carver himself, sculpture. And Lincoln took over. And after the war, of course, there was some talk about Lincoln may finish carving the mountain. But they decided that it was Mr. Borgel's project, a work of art, should be left the way he left it. So we'd never done any work since October 1941. And they have no plans to do anything else. And I hope they leave it like it is. And we wouldn't want someone that go up there and maybe blow off something and maybe ruin the carving. So I hope it stays like it is. And like I said, I won't spend much of your time like I could spend hours and hours telling you about Mount Rushmore. I was happy to get the job back in those days, and I got the job. Everybody thinks because I was a good baseball player. Well, it helped. But Mr. Borgel's son Lincoln was a big baseball fan, so he won the team for Mount Rushmore. So when he hired some new men in Hawaii, he hired some baseball players. So we had a good team. And that was a fun part of our job. We were all just amateur team. Back in those days, every little town had a baseball team, and we would play each other during the summer. And then, of course, we'd have the tournament in the fall. We went to the state tournament at Aberdeen 2 years in a row, and we were pretty good. The only thing is, maybe some of the guys would do a little celebrating too much at night. So we lost the most important game. So, yeah, I really feel, Carol and I really feel honored to be here. And I told them I wouldn't take too much of the time. I've heard a lot of good speakers, and I love to talk about Mount Rushmore, but I think I'll just say thank you for coming, and so happy to see you at Mount Rushmore, and hope that you enjoy the Black Hills. Thanks for coming.
You. We have one more speaker here.
Thank you. Just a few words about Peter Norbeck. Peter Norbeck was what I envisioned as just a traditional statesman. He was the son of Norwegian immigrants, homesteaded here in South Dakota, went on to develop a successful well drilling business just through hard work and ingenuity before going into politics. Went into politics for all the right reasons, to right the wrongs, create a better climate for the farmers in South Dakota, instill some conservation measures for the western frontier that was rapidly being homesteaded. The list goes on and on about Peter Norbeck's accomplishments. He's truly a visionary in our state. I'm lucky enough to call my great-grandfather a Mason. I'm fortunate to be at least the fourth generation Mason. I have two great-grandfathers, two grandfathers, and one father who were Masons. And I'm very proud of that heritage. Peter Norbeck is often mentioned as important to Mount Rushmore carving, and I often wonder if he would be amused about that, because he tried very hard to stay in the background. He knew it was important that there would be a local project. They formed the Mount Rushmore Society, and he specifically asked not to be on that commission because he knew how important it was for local funding and local support. But he was very supportive of the project and very influential. One of the things he did was got the blessing and support of President Coolidge, whom he had convinced to stay at the Game Lodge one summer and set up the White House in the Game Lodge. And in fact, President Coolidge presided over the launching ceremony in 1927 here at Mount Rushmore. It's also very important with the funding of Mount Rushmore. He worked very hard to get a funding bill passed. The government supplied $250,000 in matching funds. It had to be matched by a private enterprise to start this project. And it's amazing to me that it's often written that Senator Norbeck wrote a note to Doane Robinson, who was also very instrumental in the Mount Rushmore, that the day that they got the funding bill passed was probably the hardest day he'd ever had to work in his life. Perhaps most important in this project are Peter Norbeck's contributions were that as a mediator. The Mount Rushmore Society was chaired by John Bolin, who was a Rapid City businessman and was a very good financier. And it was also, of course, it was carved by Gutzon Borglum, who was an artist. Now, artists, they're not particularly concerned about money. They just want all the money that they need so they can just go right to it and get the monument carved. John Bolin, being a finance person, he understood that it's important to make sure that the income is matching the expenses. And so he was a little tighter with the purse strings than Gutzon Borglum would have liked. So you might imagine that created conflict. That Peter Norbeck did a very good job of mediating that conflict and keeping the project on task. And my dad likes to tell a story about one of the earlier instances of Peter Norbeck's mediation skills. When Peter's father moved their family from the northeast of Vermilion to the Bloomfield area, which is east of Platte. And after they got the household belongings moved, he sent Peter Norbeck back. Peter would have been about 16 at this time. Sent him back to bring the cow herd of about 20 head. He was bringing them back on foot, and they came across an oat field that looked very enticing to this herd of cows. And of course, the cows moseyed right on into the cornfield. And a very irate farmer came out to accost Peter Norbeck and started ripping him up one side and down the other. And Peter Norbeck had a reputation, even at that early age, of being very inflappable and very calm. And he just listened to what the farmer had to say. When the farmer needed to come up for air, he simply asked, well, he said, you know, it'd probably do the most good here if you would just help me get the cows out of there and let me be on my way. And they were able to resolve the situation that way. I'd like to thank Grandmaster Mike Rodman for allowing me and my family to be a part of this, and we enjoyed the day.
There you go. There they are. They look great. All right, we're getting to the 7th inning stretch. Literally. So if everybody would just take a moment, stand up, stretch your legs, stretch your arms. I hear those groans. Don't sit down. Stay standing. I would like to ask those of you that are not members of the group I'm about to announce to sit down. If you are a member of this group, please stay standing. If any of you have served in our military, if any of you have worked in law enforcement, a firefighter or first responder, please remain standing. When I was first introduced, one of the things that I'm known for is being a TV guy that runs around and plays Indiana Jones. I have never served in the military, law enforcement, firefighting, or been a first responder. But I personally want to thank all of you and honor all of you for your service, for allowing a rockhound like me to run around and play a fictional character. I truly appreciate your service, and I think we all do. So thank you. Okay, you can sit now. Thank you. The next person I would like to introduce is Most Worshipful Brother George Bratz, who is the Executive Secretary of the Masonic Service Association of North America. Brother George.
Good morning. On behalf of the Masonic Service Association of North America, I do want to congratulate the Grand Lodge of South Dakota for what a wonderful ceremony and activity they put together here. It has been really fantastic. Thank you very much for all your work. When I was a very young lad, I rode with my parents on a trip from Ohio to view these amazing figures above us here. Their size and boldness struck me with great awe and wonder. Years later, my wife and I brought our young family here, and I was again able to view this magnificent sight. On that trip, as a very new Mason, just getting active in the fraternity, I was intrigued by the museum and the historical references, and to know that sculptor Gutzon Borglum was a master Mason.